What's up, everybody? It is Blue Jays here, and Kevin.
Woo!
Yes, we made it back.
Yeah. How's
Kevin,
it feel, Blue Jays?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, man. You got the haircut. Your hair's all swept to the side.
Yeah,
Got a new chair. Look at that. Folks can't even see his plant anymore.
I know it's
That
there
chair's
though.
so
See,
wide.
there you go.
There you go. Nice. Yeah, dude. How you been? What's new?
Doing good, doing good. It's August 20th. Yeah, and this is EOS Radio number 23. We got Eva.coop and we got Chintai. I know they have a nice update coming up for us. I think I read that they may have delayed for more testing, but that's always a good thing. So at least they can come and give us the lowdown on how it's going to look like. And then do we have Thomas Cox coming on today, Kevin?
Thomas talks.
I do that sometimes.
He does a lot of talking. He does do a lot of talking, I should say. But yeah, now in the Shintai, a lot of folks have wondered about, the new Rex staking out. Dan's talked about being able to rent out your tokens and get Rex and get paid for renting them out. And Shintai has been building it for a long time. It's a community project.
Yeah.
Since I think March is when we had them on last. And they decided, we're still going ahead. Of course, we're almost fully built, right? And might as well provide some competition to the other option, to Rex. And then therefore every token holder can pick whichever gives the best payout or has the best system in place is the winner. So
that'd be interesting to see how that plays out. I mean,
yeah, right. I mean,
we don't know. It's new technology, so
exactly. Yeah, and we don't even, of course, we don't even have an opportunity to. We don't have a referendum process yet either. That's still coming. And actually, that group is about to gear up and start announcing their efforts as well. We don't even announce testing as well, from what I understand. So lots of good stuff happening. But yeah, so Ava's coming on first, huh?
Yep, Eva is coming on. We got Jake from Eva, and he's bringing somebody on from the project itself. I'm not sure if he mentioned who, but we will find out. Wonder if Jake's ready to come on in.
Yep, he should be coming in here. Did Jake? We actually met Jake. Remember the Tula conference in San Francisco?
Yeah,
Jake, and he wound up sleeping in the closet with someone special in the community that we all know well. We've always kept it a secret, I believe. At least I have. But then the person himself maybe did not keep a secret. The guy who was sleeping with Jake in the closet. But so what happened, guys, is we had it was a nice house. They rented and put a bunch of us EOS folks in there. And this was right around the launch of EOS Mainnet itself. And there were not enough rooms or beds for everybody, and not even enough couches. And so some people wound up in the closet, some of the latecomers. And two of those latecomers were Jake and another well-known person in the community. And I'll just continue to keep that a secret, even though I think you mentioned it before. But,
I think Jake revealed it like right in the chat. So
okay. So anyway, and then I think in San Francisco they have the EOS.io hackathon is going to happen there. Is November, I believe. I think the next one's coming up in London. And then the last one, it's either November or December, possibly. We'll get the link up for that.
Okay.
So yeah, they kind of were waiting to announce the location for that. And then they finally came out and said, we are doing it in San Francisco. Why not, right? Silicon Valley. It's been a hub of technology for a long time. Might as well jump in there and find out what the talent thinks of blockchain. Here we go. Here's Raphael.
What's
Welcome.
up, guys? Can you hear me?
You sound good.
We can hear you.
Oh, perfect. So, hi, everyone. I'm Raphael, and I'm the Chief Technical Officer here at Eva. And Jake is supposed to arrive shortly.
Hey,
There he
Raphael.
is.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing fine, and you? What about you?
Doing well.
What's up, Jake?
Good to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you all. And it's nice. It's a really nice initiative to have this podcast. I like it.
Where are you located, Raphael?
Right now, I'm in Montreal, Canada. So basically, this is where the French accent is coming from. And so I'm in North America, but my first language is French. And we're in Montreal developing stuff on EOS.
Nice. And I guess we might as well introduce Jake. We've seen his face a few times. Many folks on this show have not. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going great. I helped with Eva's white paper, and Raphael here is the head developer, WizKid, genius. And
Unix beard guy.
yes, I'm really jealous. I can't grow a beard.
Most cheerful background award winner, Raphael. Well, cool. Yeah, and tell us more a little bit about Eva. I mean, I don't know much about you guys personally, so I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, so I guess Eva just was born, like the idea was born back in January 2018. And after some readings, we noticed that like there was a real purpose on replacing ride-sharing middlemen as companies. And we're like, oh, what's the best network we have as blockchain to create a smart contract? And at first we looked at Ethereum, but we were like, oh, this isn't performant enough. So we need to find an alternative. So we create EOS. And we joined as developers on Down 2.0. So we've been there since the mainnet launch. And like we've been developing our technology ever since, and it's almost ready. So to give what Eva is all about, it's basically a ride-sharing app like Uber or Lyft or many other alternatives that exist in places of the world. But the thing is, it's decentralized. The drivers are getting paid more, and the profit are redistributed in the token ecosystem.
Yeah.
Sounds great. This is the go-to kind of example of what a dApp could be. We always hear it from Block One and ride sharing, and Uber as a middleman could be cut out. So this is exciting. And you guys came over to EOS as well. Can you talk a little bit more about what you found while developing on EOS?
Like challenges and stuff like that.
Yeah, challenges, general thoughts, how it's been going, development.
It's been going pretty well. I feel like the resources are way more broader than at first when we arrived. But like as developers, it was first more of a challenge to get like the tools working. But once like you get started, you're part of a community, and you're like, oh, I need to develop some tools, for example, to like have the app running on iOS and Android. Oh, but like we choose the React Native technology, and this technology isn't working with EOS. So like you have to create the framework yourself, and you have to be involved in the community at the same time. So it's been working pretty well. It's promising in terms of scaling. I heard about like some other ride sharing application on other blockchains, and the problem remained in the transaction per second of the whole network that wasn't working well enough for having ride sharing and applications like that running on the blockchain.
And one of the other key things we feel that Eva is going to solve for the ride sharing app as a ride sharing app is the fact that at the locality level, each city that we go to has different laws and regulations in accordance with becoming a taxi service. So Eva, we've decided to do a co-op based model. So at the local level, is you're able to have a cooperative people who come together and can abide by those laws and go through the process, and everything can be legit. And then at the top level, which is where Raphael and I are at, we have a foundation, and we're just a technology service provider at the end of the day.
And at the end of the day, like for giving an example of the redistribution within the network, there's a ride and there's a stable token that is exchanged in a smart contract during the ride.
Okay.
So basically, the rider has funds in his wallet and is sending 85% of the total cost of the ride directly to the driver of the wallet. And then there's 5% that goes to the network, all the token holders of the reward token we have in our network. And then there's the 10% that goes to the local community that operates in a certain like geographical region. So like every ride operating in this geographical region has the 10% on the ride as an incentive for people to create cooperatives that is answering to the legal structure in their society.
Interesting. So how do people use it? Is it on a mobile, like you said?
Yeah, it's on a mobile, and it's like it's pretty simple to use. You just open it and you ask for a ride like Uber, and we take credit card payment as well, because we saw that like there was a certain market barrier entry if we were only working with like like EOS, so people don't have to like buy EOS before. We created an exchange in which we issue our stable token living on the network in exchange of credit card payments. So we have like this exchange part that is part of the application.
Interesting. Okay.
So like
Okay.
you can see the app on my cell phone right here. Like I don't know much about the quality, but
Yeah, we
yeah.
can see it.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, it's the login screen. I'm just gonna try to connect. And right now we're like in a private beta here in Montreal, and we'll be like in open beta in the next month or so. So we'll like strategically launching our beta. And right now, like I'm connected as a driver on the app, and I can like go online. So right now I'm waiting for like rides around the corner, like,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
that's basically it. Like I can search for a location somewhere, and it works like any other ride sharing application. So like I have this ride with a price proposed in dollars so people can understand, because nobody knows EOS. And like the idea we have for our project is that like people need to get in out of the blockchain community. So after that, they can understand what are the benefits of blockchain. So like drivers will be able to invest in the project by themselves. Like they'll be able to like say, for example, oh, 10% of my salary as a driver, give it back to me as a reward token on which I get a return on profitability of the network. So we're working with like incentives for many stakeholders within the system.
Yeah.
Neat.
Did you pick the name Eva because it spells the E for EOS?
We wish, but
Oh,
like that
okay.
wasn't the idea at first. Actually, like we were discussing about a movie, Ex Machina. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
I think I've heard about it, yeah.
Yeah, and there was like this AI bot. I'm really interested in deep learning as well. And in the movie, there's an AI bot called Ava, but we thought it was Eva, and we're like, that's a great name. And you have like this Uber that is like the wrong guy, like the aggressive man. And you have Eva, like the nice woman that you can like, that is sharing with everyone, that is community driven,
Yeah.
and that is decentralized. So we kind of like the idea of calling ourselves Eva.
Okay. Because I know there's also another robot called Eva in Wally.
Oh,
That's
I haven't
that's
watched
just
Wall-E, so that's a nice thing to hear. Yeah,
yeah, now we know what Bluejays does in his spare time. Yeah.
yeah.
Watch his Pixar movie. We got, and so can you guys tell what's your background? Have you guys worked in ride sharing before? What made you get involved with Eva?
Yeah. Jake. Yeah.
No, I just got involved with Eva to help with a white paper, but it's been a fun time working with these guys, and no, it's pretty cool because what we've been able to do at the cooperative level in Montreal is raise around $100,000 in different grants as well.
Mhm.
You want to elaborate on that further?
Yeah,
Talk
so
about
like
that.
locally, you can raise some money for the cooperative, because in many cities around the world, there's like a lot of cities want their transport industry of people to remain local, and that's a problem with Uber or Lyft. Is a big part of the transaction is going somewhere else, like in the US or in Netherlands. So like, and we sometimes talk about tax evasion and other stuff like this, and like it remains a problem for many societies, and I think that like blockchain is giving a solution to this problem. So yeah, and basically my background is in software engineering, deep learning. I got started in blockchain only 1 year ago. I heard about Bitcoin in 2013, but like I only saw like the revolution coming 1 year ago, and I've been developing decentralized apps ever since.
Mm.
And on the team, we have Max Gravit, that is a more is a senior developer. He worked at Intel, he worked at many places, and he's been working with me on the blockchain part. And we also have Merwan Bentama. Merwan is an experienced developer on like for load balancing and the off-chain exchange service. And there's Dardan Isufi that is operating as the chief operating officer, like for the marketing, and like every job Dardan's been doing a really great job so far. And he's the co-founder with me.
Okay.
So, and we started the first local cooperative here in Montreal, and we have many projects to open some after the proof of concept here in Montreal.
So tell us a little bit more about what a cooperative is.
Okay, so a cooperative is a multi-stakeholder company. We have this model. I don't know if there's it in the US, but in Canada, we have the cooperative model. A cooperative is there's no shareholder. It's an entity that represents, well, according to us, a group of workers that like offer a service between the members. So it's for the benefits of the members and it's for the benefits of everyone in the cooperative. So, for example, in our cooperative, we have the rider is a member as a rider member. There's the drivers that are drivers member, and there's the worker members. And all those members are stakeholders within an ecosystem that is a cooperative that like takes decision democratically. So there's a board of representatives that like is elected each year on the cooperative, and then there's a general assembly on which every member can vote for the governance of the cooperative. So we remain decentralized in the corporate structure we're choosing in the communities that the blockchain ride-sharing application called Eva operates.
Okay.
I don't know if it summarizes it well. It's quite it's like
I don't know if that's just a Canadian thing or an American thing.
No,
they have it in the U.S.
Oh, you do?
I was part of a co-op in Iowa. It was New Pioneer Co-op, and it was basically an organic food store. I mean, anyone could go there who wasn't a cooperative member, but if you want to be a cooperative member, it costs $25, and you were given a vote and the ability to run for different offices and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of an everybody wins type of group, and that's obviously with EOS. It's a lot of what we talk about here. It's competition for a lot of folks, block producers, and even some dApp developers, but also it's collaboration as well. I mean, the same thing with open source, of course, building off each other's work. Long term. So what are the next steps for you guys with Eva?
Okay, so yeah, on our side, the next step is finalizing like the private beta for a couple of weeks, and then we have a launch set up in Montreal. And right now we have our stable token living on the private net blockchain running the EOS.io software. And then it will be the mainnet launch for our dApp, and we want to have a beta running for 2 months, and then it will be like the official launch. We did a media release here in Quebec, and we had some, we passed on some, the local news and CBC, which is like the kind of PBS for Canada. So like we started get out to the people our project, but we don't even talk about blockchain yet because we feel like people must see the benefits once they're in. Because when you talk blockchain to general people from now, it's like they only understand Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And the only thing they know is like, oh, Bitcoin dropped. So we need to be really careful in the way we approach grandmothers and like aunts and general people about the benefits of blockchain, because they don't know much yet. And there's an education part that we need to do to have like a general market product. And this is really the goal here we have at Eva. It's like to have a mass market product. And this is the way we've been building the user experience so far.
It's actually pretty smart because within your co-op, I'm sure you have a lot of blockchain people who are already educated in that, so that you can pick up the users faster.
Yeah, and like you can create communities globally to that with blockchain interested people, so like they can start a co-op and like join the network. And actually, you just have like to they only have to like add a community onto the smart contract and they can operate. But they have like to respond the constraint of their society, because we need to be like legit in the way we operate everywhere in the world.
Yeah. So you can almost like use the code to go to a different location and deploy like a co-op in a different location, or they would tap into your mainnet or something like that.
The mainnet it's working on EOS.
Okay.
Yeah, and then like some people want to create a co-op, so like it's like creating a node in a blockchain. Like we haven't like developed the whole structure for like a local cooperative that wants to start everyone the well, but we'll make a software that will use a web software where people can like choose their rides and like the fees of their rides. For example, the price per kilometer, the price per minute, and they even decide parameters like the number of kilometers a call is dispatched through the application. So like, and they decide the search pricings details on the smart contract. So each community has like the authentication keys to control like the operation of the technology in their community.
Cool. And well, thank you guys for coming on. Is there anywhere folks should keep up with you guys as as EVA starts ramping up, we get through beta testing and onto production?
Yeah, if you want to keep up with us, you can read the white paper. You can contact us at contact@eva.coop. If you want to read the white paper that just got out, it's whitepaper.eva.coop. I'll write it on the chat or something. And then there's the Eva.coop website, and we're really active on Telegram and every other places of the EOS community.
And Jake helped with that white paper?
Yeah, I straightened them out. They were like lost sheep. Then I came around like the shepherd.
Yeah.
I waved my pole and was like, "Pass, go that way to the promised land."
You know, when you slammed your pole down, you hit the mic just right, so it actually sounded pretty powerful. It sounded good. You have a talent there.
Yes, I do. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, guys, for coming on. This is an exciting app, obviously, for EOS, and this is the kind of thing that we even hear Block One talking about, right? Something that can be easily doable. So looking forward to this, guys, and we'll all be following along.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks, Kev. Thanks, Bluejays.
Thanks, Raphael. Thanks, Jake.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
I can't wait to check out Jake's white paper.
Yeah, so we linked it over in the chat, whitepaper.eva.coop, if you want to read Jake's work there, the shepherd. When Raphael had that app pulled up, I momentarily forgot it's still an MVP, right? Yeah. So it wasn't actually putting him out there for picking up rides. I could just see him getting a ride on the show. That'd be a live demo right there. Guys, I got to go. I've got a ride.
I don't want to lose my EOS.
Right.
That'd be cool, man, right? You know, pay in EOS, have the whole ecosystem, you know. Get your when we were in San Francisco and we used the Uber. I mean, I don't use Uber a lot, but it was fairly simple, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's easy. You just hit a couple buttons on your phone and a car shows up. I mean, this is modern life, right?
Right.
Hard to beat.
Decentralized taxi force.
Yeah, where you everybody's interests are aligned. You know, if you want to hang on to some EVA tokens, I suppose, you know, you can also sort of, if the network is growing, it will benefit you as well.
Yeah, I gotta look more at the white paper.
Yeah, I was actually meant to ask too about this internal market. He talked about you could pay with a credit card, and they've built an internal market where it automatically transfers the money over to the token as well.
It probably does like that exchange, go from fiat to EVA token and then back.
Yeah, I wonder if they set up like a Bancor market or something. I wonder what happened. I had to ask. But that's all right. So we'll have to keep up with them so we know exactly what's going on.
We'll see if Jake's white paper makes it more simpler for us to understand.
That's what we need. Yeah.
Or else he can go back in the closet.
Another thing we forgot to ask you about, Jake's closet. Yes. Well, we have David P. from Chintai coming on, right? Let's
yes. Everybody wants to know.
Yeah, how can I make money on my EOS? That's a big question. I mean, how can I make money in general? Yeah, obviously, but
yeah, I imagine he comes on. We just ask him. So, how can we make money?
David, please tell us. He's been all over the place now. Recently, I think he just said he's over in Chicago. We'll see some kind of different background. You know, maybe his accent's changed. He's been in the U.S. for so long.
Oh, that's right.
With us.
He's got a Chicago accent now. I can't even do it, man.
Eating all that deep dish pizza.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not good at the accent either. But he's coming in. I mean, what are your general thoughts for EOS? Give us like your rundown from the past week. What's been happening for you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, there was the Alliance launch. Um, I think we'll talk about that later, maybe in the news. Um, there was the DevCon launch news as well, and
Yeah.
Chintai was supposed to be here this week, so very, very interesting stuff. There he is.
Oh, speaking of, Mr. David. Hello.
Looks like he can't hear us yet.
No, not yet.
Hey, sorry guys, I'm
There he is.
on now. Hi, how are you? Or should I
Doing
say,
well.
how you all doing? Right?
Oh, yes, there
Oh,
he
there.
is.
He's picked it up. How's that pizza out there?
I'm trying hard every day not to gain 50 pounds. So that's American food for you, right? It tastes good, but boy, yeah. Otherwise, everything's great. Yeah, how are you guys doing?
Doing well.
Good. Yeah, I mean, it feels like, back to old times here. We were just talking about what happened this week, and I had forgotten what happened this week because I'm just hanging out with Bluejays right now on the show. It's been like this for a long time, so.
I was thinking it was been 2 months pretty much bang on the launch, hasn't it? Since we were all in the House of Shame together around launch, and yeah, lots happened for all of us since then.
Sure. House of Shame. There you go. I never thought of it that way, but well termed.
From the people who've never heard all this stuff before, they heard about closets, House of Shame. It's like, sorry, everything was on the up and up.
It's all right. At least Jake came out on the show. That's good.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. What's been going on with Chintai? We'd love to learn the latest update.
Yep. So we've been very active over the last. Well, we had a bit of a delay. The original plan was to roll out Chintai about 2 weeks after the blockchain launch, but as we all remember, it took a little longer than we expected to launch, and then we had a few stability, other community issues around that time, so it pushed the whole team way off, and we were running about a month behind. It was due to launch tomorrow. It's now definitely hard locked in for August 28th, so a week tomorrow. The coding is completely finished. It's been released out onto the jungle, but at the moment only for private testing, and we're releasing out to the community in 2 days' time. So it's got full handling of airdrops, voting capabilities as well as built in now. And most of the functionality in the white paper that we published out way back in February is actually going to be in this first release in the end. So it's ended up being quite a lot more advanced, the first release, than we originally planned. And I don't know if anybody is interested in seeing the actual interface, but that's being posted around on social media at the moment. And yeah, we're just really excited to get the community involved now. And I think we're going to see multiple other ones of these starting to build out in the coming months, which will be good for the community. But yeah, it's an exciting time for the team because they've just come together and really had to work incredibly hard for this.
Well, congratulations, and I think we don't mind waiting a week for awesome testing to be done. So
yeah, I mean, for example, we're looking to get in ideally object computing or an equivalent to external code review the contract code base for us and just give additional security. But otherwise, we have 10 BP sponsors for Chintai. Its business model has always been to provide feeless leasing, though that doesn't include RAM, I should add. That's a slightly separate issue in itself that does cost. But the feeless leasing is enabled by all BP sponsors staking some of their reserves ongoing for the application itself to use. So it's in effect free to run and for everybody to use. So that was always part of its original model. But again, actually now the sponsors themselves are starting to step in and are going to give some additional technical support. And another one, for example, is we've got the Ricardian contract to finish off as well. Which is another, for those not familiar, you have to actually provide in effect a written explanation of how the contract works in a very precise worded form, and that's another requirement within the Constitution that we have to deliver on along with the launch of the contract itself.
Okay. What did you mean by you said full handling of airdrops? What does that mean?
So originally, when you actually use the application, at the moment until we translate this into going fully decentralized as a DEX, that's a whole nother level up in terms of where we envisage the Chintai roadmap to go in the future. But for now, you're having to transfer your tokens in exactly the same way as with Rex. You're transferring it there to the system contract. Here you're transferring it to the Chintai wallet, which is multi-sig, multiple owners and therefore security that goes with that. And we'll be providing more details on all of that. But the airdrop side of things, therefore, as a consequence of this, if you're no longer directly holding the tokens and you've leased them out and they're being held somewhere else, it's a bit like putting them on an exchange.
Mm-hmm.
In theory, the exchange gets your airdrop tokens,
right.
And unless they decide to recognize it, you can't. But we've now built in functionality where you can actually just at any time, once tokens have been issued, whatever they are, even if they're, well, I hate to use the phrase, but they might be shitcoins, right? But there's varying qualities of airdrops that you're going to see coming out, and some you're probably going to want, some you're not. But people will be able to just call and actually transfer back to their account anything they wish as soon as they're actually issued out.
Oh, I see. So no fear, your lease token, you will still receive your airdrop.
Yeah, exactly. So that was something that we suddenly realized was an unintended consequence of leasing out, which was people are not going to want to miss out, say, on the Everpedia IQ tokens, for example. You know, and what you don't want is an unhealthy leasing market where the moment somebody realizes a big airdrop's coming, they
pull it out.
Yeah, the whole market would collapse suddenly in terms of supply because everyone wants to move them back to their wallets for that date, and then that's an unhealthy situation. So we have managed to get that handling in, and we've also got voting capabilities in there too. We've just not made it mandatory. We did consider that long and hard and decided it was better that we didn't force uninformed voting. So yeah, it's a slight difference there from the proposal that Dan's put in place for the REC solution.
Okay. Talk about that solution, David. What do you see that's similar and what you see it's not similar?
I think it's a great idea, what's being proposed by Dan. I mean, I think it kind of reflects the ongoing development of all the different infrastructure around EOS, because when we first came up with, shall we build out a token leasing platform, we did talk to as many people inside Block One as we could, and Thomas Cox was also supportive in those early days for us, and managed to confirm from a few that there seemed to be no intention to build a token leasing platform. But Dan is Dan, and Dan had an idea about how he envisages it works. Actually, looking at the CEOS token and the way it would price itself, etc., it's like a kind of pulled version of Chintai. So it's not dramatically different. Actually, the internal workings of how it would work, it looked like when he first announced it was because there was going to be an external secondary trading market for these CEOS tokens, which is I'm not a huge proponent of the secondary RAM market. I don't particularly think the speculative side of that's particularly healthy at the moment for us, and that's why we've seen some calls to adapt that, although it seems to be calming down a bit now. I just wouldn't like to say the same thing necessarily happening then with bandwidth and CPU, and that's why Shintai's market is purely a utility market, which means that you're not going in there to secondary trade it and make profit. You buy it to use it. Mm-hmm. So, we should expect early on relatively low demand, but as more and more businesses start to deploy out, they're going to want to actively utilize bandwidth for that. So they're just different approaches on the same thing. And I think what's useful is whatever happens, that we'll be building out a first active market where we can actually see pricing of bandwidth and CPU for the first time in a reasonably accurate way. And that's going to be helpful for everybody. And of course, for businesses that are looking to use EOS, shouldn't matter too much things like token price. They should be able to get much cheaper access to bandwidth and CPU for the first time.
Sounds excellent. Yeah. And when you talk about, so what was your kind of reaction when you guys heard that Rex was coming out and you've been building Chintai for so long? Did you pivot at all? Or did you just sort of keep going with the product?
I said, oh, Daniel. But I mean, really, it's an interesting one. When you're about 95% of the way through the code base on a project, it did deflate the team initially for a couple of days, I could detect. But we looked at what was actually being proposed, and we instantly saw some things that we thought, hey, that's a good idea. We should implement that on our side too. So, the voting side, we've been thinking, oh, we'll roll it out a little later on, and then everybody was raving that the voting is a really important aspect here. So we pushed that forward into the first release because it was helpful for us to get that feedback. I think it's healthy on a range of levels that we've got this alternative solution. And actually, I was talking to the guys at EOS Nation, who are one of the sponsors of Chintai as well. And I mean, there's 10 in total, including ourselves, EOS 42 on this. And their view was very much that whatever Dan delivers will probably not have necessarily a front-end interface anywhere, and there'll be multiple interfaces there. So it could well be that we if for some reason it did away with the way we're envisaging this all works, and there was a complete wholesale change, that it ends up being a front end for that.
Yeah.
So, it's really difficult to tell. And then aside from that, of course, we have multiple complementary chains starting to launch. You've got Warbly out there, for example, as one example that's coming soon. And they're going to want token leasing on their platform too. So I think it's a healthy thing that we look to provide that for them as well to help grow the entire EOS ecosystem out. It's really a chain, it's designed to be multiple complementary chains ideally, rather than us getting too tokenistic, as it were, and tribal about this stuff.
So
tokenistic.
Tokenistic,
like
yeah, that was a pretty cool word.
Go ahead.
It's just me in full flow. You can smell it, right?
All the way from. How are you enjoying Chicago, man?
That's good. It's good. I'm out in San Francisco to speak at a community event there tomorrow. So I'm doing a one-day round trip, and I did a one-day round trip down to Detroit and back from Chicago on the Amtrak, and to met Rob Rigo and all his guys for the first time a little while ago as well. It was about 2 or 3 weeks ago now. So I've had a really cool time. It's been great to spend a bit of time stateside as well and get some connections with people I've not met before.
Very good.
Yeah. Nice. And
how's everything going for you, Kevin? Are you even allowed to talk about the A word?
Well, it was funny because just before you came on, we were talking about our previous week, like I said, and I had actually forgotten about it. It's like, yeah, good old times here. So,
what do you mean you've forgotten about it?
I just momentarily was in the moment, and you're about to come on. You're an old buddy, and I'm talking to Blue Jays. This alliance thing is brand new. I'm not thinking about the new stuff.
I'm just hold on, Blue Jays. Do you think he's starting to sound more and more like a politician now? Yeah.
I don't know. I guess you have to. So obviously the alliance, we're not going to take any positions or sides. So it is.
No, well, actually, you can't. And I would say, actually, we're supportive. I think I saw some really good commentary on what something like the alliance is, and while we're briefly on it, I think the community needs to self-organize in a variety of ways, and there's nobody forcing anybody to actually necessarily follow. It's going to be very much so. We clearly do need and will benefit from a means of helping us reach consensus and debate. So it's going to hopefully be more effective than the BP weekly calls anyway.
Yeah, well said. We'll see how it works out. We have our first initiative coming up. I mean, people still have a lot of questions, but we're hoping to answer a lot of them. And when folks are not sure quite what's going on, and there are still a lot of things to be worked out, but obviously it's easier to think all the worst of what could possibly happen. But really, it's all about, like you said it perfectly. We're just trying to make sure that everybody has a voice and can kind of step forward, and we can combine some of those voices, hopefully, into folks who are aligned with their ideological beliefs and their thoughts. Also, congratulations. You guys are now number 2, I think, on EOS 42 on the block producer list.
Yeah, you know what? I had a quick look, and I thought this is fortunate timing to come on, because I could come back in 2 weeks' time and I could be in 25th place or something or whatever. I like to look at it. The token holders, they build you up just to knock you back down again and break your heart. So, I mean, if you notice, the table moves around with quite a healthy bubble of BPs moving in and out of the production zone, etc. I think it's good because you can see there's so much drive from all block producers around the world to try and deliver and add value here. And I think the system for me is working exactly as I would hope. You're seeing candidates and all around the world hungry to try and say, look at us, look at what we're doing, look at why you should vote for us for all the right reasons. It's great to see. I think it's probably the most elegantly designed aspect of the entire default system for me. This.
Do you want a disco to celebrate? He's like,
yeah. Are we going to do it?
Yeah, let's do it. We're number 2.
I don't know if you put the music on. No, shouldn't it be a number 1 dance instead? That's there's no prizes for second.
Well, I mean, who's number 1?
It starts EOS, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, no, the way I would always look at this is it's a huge responsibility when that many much token weight, if you like, is delegated for you to run the network in any capacity. And so yeah, we just see it as a huge responsibility. But it's been great for me because Chintai has actually enabled me to meet a huge number of talented people on the technical side, which has gradually meant that we're building up our team in-house to build some exciting things beyond Chintai. So it's been a great example, I think, of if you get out there and actually start building, else other people in the community, you connect with them, and that really can lead to unintended consequences. In our case, we've met a whole raft of people who joined the team as a result. So yeah, it's been a great experience the last 6 months for sure.
So David, talk about a little bit more about the roadmap. So once you were out into production in like about 8 days, what's next after that?
So I actually had a call with the Chintai sponsors, and I'm going to just list them out really briefly in the order of actually that they first came to us and committed support. So, I mean, obviously ourselves, EOS 42, it's EOS New York, EOS Detroit, EOS Canada, EOS Dublin, EOS Nation, EOS DAC, Oracle Chain, EOS Sphere, and EOS Tribe. Now, we had a call with them all today just to give them a full detailed briefing on progress, where we are, etc. And one thing we're actually forming is going to be a Chintai advisory board, which includes David Kalin, who's one of the few proper complete independents who's been involved in the project since launch, and he's not on any BP. It's going to have the BPs on there to give a voice as well, and it's going to have Chintai community representatives who step up and would like to be involved, and we've got a couple starting to show themselves. They're actually going to shape the future direction of this. So we all have a variety of ideas about how this could be. I think one obvious one is that we'll integrate RAM.
Okay.
So that you can actually pretty much, I think, is a hard lock. I do think conversion to be fully decentralized would be a real value add before we turn the code base over and go fully open source for everyone to just, fork and use for any way they wish. But it's going to be for the community. It wouldn't surprise me if the community turned around and said, "Hey, let's tokenize and airdrop this." I mean, it really will be for them to decide what they want to do with it. But I've got a lot of ideas, but I think that this goes really down to what I think projects like this should be about, which is they really become a community project for the community to decide the direction going forward.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you give any sneak peeks as to your next projects with EOS 42?
Oh, God. Kevin. We actually have a whole area on our Slack, one of our Slack channels, which is the whole thing is about DApp ideas, and we keep constantly bouncing different things and projects off ourselves. We have got a couple of things in the pipeline, but nothing I can really announce because they're in development. One of them is adding a lot more transparency to the blockchain and block producers. That was one big one that we thought there's clear interest from the likes of the proxies and active community members to understand in more detail what is going on. And that's something that we as a block producer have been trying to do. Accounts that are clearly named. All of the team members have got account names that are as close as they can be to their real names to fit in 12 characters. You can see things like salaries going out, payments for website development, contractor hiring, travel, anything you can see all the activity on our accounts. We're trying to keep it all on chain and just claim it back to enable the community to have ultra transparency on what we're doing, so they can literally pick up and check and challenge. And if they don't like something, they can say, well, what's that, bigger? And we'll be able to address it. I think some other BPs are going other routes with this. They're probably just going to give very detailed quarterly reports or whatever, and we're trying to do that too. But with regards to what we're planning next, there is something tied into that for sure.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for that sneak peek.
It's not really a peek, is it?
We'll take it.
Yeah. Figures.
Will you be back over in San Francisco November, December for the hackathon? Or you probably going to go in September, I would assume, next month for when Dan and Brendan are going out there, right?
Yeah. So it's a big it is. It's a big month and coming up in the EOS London, in a big drinks session on the 5th of September for the community to awaken them from their 6-week slumber of no meetups. So we're going to have one of those on the 5th of September. But big thing, a number of UK and UK-based block producers, and then others really in Europe. Certainly, I've realised how big the US is when you spend time here. You've got obviously Dublin very close. You've got Amsterdam and Sweden. So there's some big BPs all in the range not that far from London as well, who are looking to get involved along with EOS Authority and EOS DAC. And so we're all pulling together along with other community resources to try and see if we can arrange some pretty cool events in the interim between the hackathon and Blockchain Live, which is directly after it. And I believe Blockchain Live, Block One are the primary sponsor for it, and some sort of big announcements are going to be made there. That's all I've seen, whatever that actually means, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be exciting. We are actually, I've actually formed a team with another fairly well-known BP application, EOS application that's in development, and we are entering the hackathon actually as contestants.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so that should be cool.
Wow, congratulations. That sounds good.
No, congratulate me if we win. Anyway, it's nothing to do with me. I mean, I come from a tech background, but it's certainly nothing to do with me. So I'm just watching them and impressed with their energy levels that they're so sure they are going to win.
You're just going for the EOS branded deodorant stick, right?
Yeah, I want to get one of those cool mentor T-shirts, even though I'm not really a mentor. That's what I'm after. So I was hoping to turn up, take the T-shirt, and maybe have a beer and watch.
Okay. I wonder what an EOS deodorant stick smells like. It's like, you know.
You'll have to ask Kevin Rose that. Maybe it is rose scented.
Oh, yeah. He got a special one.
Yeah, quite.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Cool. We're always good to catch up, guys. Thanks a lot. And as I say, 28th of August. Fingers crossed it's all goes well.
Yep. Looking forward to it, man.
Day. Sounds
Thanks,
good.
guys.
Thanks a lot. Good deal.
Did you see that?
Sure.
The EOS branded deodorant stick?
Yeah, I had seen it. I'd forgotten about it until you brought it up again. It's really the important things that stick with you, I can tell.
I'm a very complex dude.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a nice little pack, and it's a hackathon, so you do want to keep the deodorant on throughout the whole.
That is true. Yeah, with respect for all the other coders, obviously.
Right, yeah. Compete it, yeah. It's one way to beat them, I guess.
Yeah, one way to beat them, don't use the deodorant stick.
Right, yeah, they just give up. We have Thomas Cox coming on in about 7 minutes, guys. We'll do a little bit of news in the meantime. We should go back and just talk about what's been happening for us personally. Why not, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I mean, you had a big announcement this week. You released DevCon.
Yeah, so DevCon, guys. EOS DevCon is going to be coming in January of next year, at the end of the month. It'll be just after the MLK weekend. So it'll be a good time there. It looks to be a dev-focused event. I with myself and Jared Figueredo of Orispay are organizing it, and we hope to see everybody there. It's I think DApps are going to be where 2019 starts off. I mean, we have the chain is up, it's ready to go. We're talking about transactions per second, and what do you do with those transactions per second? You deploy apps on it and you use it. So let's see what we can do with this thing. DevCon's going to kick that off. So.
Well said. I noticed there was a yacht party on the website, my favorite part of the website.
Yep. That was Jared's idea. He likes to do things like that. I was trying to twist his arm, hey, just don't take the wheel, He's talking about putting a flag on top too, maybe an EOS flag on top. So he's Is
the yacht going out? Or was it just going to stay in the harbor?
Oh, no, it's going out.
Oh, it's going out. Okay. Bring the life jackets.
Yeah, bring the life jackets. No, we'll supply them. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, yeah.
We have professionals taking care of it, so.
You said you had a funny line in the chat where if Jarv's going to be driving, so we will have the life jackets on board.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. We'll provide the life jacket. And Jared also said that we're going to have cigar rollers. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, how many developers smoke cigars? It's like, I
yeah. I mean, who knows, right? Yeah.
But it's not just for developers; it's for everyone. It's going to be a showcase of all the cool things that are out there for you to use on EOS.
Nice. Yeah, you said it well. I mean, you've always been big about the DApps too on EOS. We go back a long ways here in the EOS world, and it is about the DApps. We spent so long talking about the block producers and the candidates and who would get elected and so on. So it's really nice to sort of shift focus now to the devs, the developers, and to the DApp builders, the folks who are giving this network value in the first place,
and all the communities that develop Steam 2.0, whatever else, Chintai, Eva.coop, anything that develops on there are going to have these little communities. And yeah, this is where we go to find users, people who come in to adopt each other's app, use us as an ecosystem. We're going to start using each other's dApps. So that's where you meet the people who founded these dApps and find users and talk ideas and find VC funding, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and we've seen many times now. I mean, this is a huge. I'm big on this. We've seen that folks who are just getting involved in the community and putting forth their effort and volunteering. Oftentimes, they can get hired on with one of these dApp teams if they wish, or they can get involved. I mean, look at Jake, for example. I mean, he's fairly new with Eva, but he's jumped right in, and now he's a part of their team, and he helps write their white paper. Mm-hmm. So as long as you put yourself out there and you can kind of get involved with all these cool dApps and get involved right at the ground floor when they're first starting up, sort of change your career and change your life. I think that's exciting. That's always been a big part for me too. So yeah, these kind of events, networking is a big deal. Obviously, you start somewhere. So
yeah, physical in-person networking, you can't beat that. I mean, we still talk about San Francisco, and I'm sure New York would be not New York. London is going to be a blast too, with Dan there and everything.
Can you imagine this? Poor Dan, he's going to need like 5 bodyguards. Just stay away. He has a lot of fans. I mean, we see that Twitter, we love BM spamming constantly. 95% of the network usage.
The Palace Police, the ones with the big hats, the big black fuzzy hats.
Oh, the Buckingham Palace guys.
They're going to be standing on either side of Dan.
They don't ever move. They just stand there.
With a billy. They don't even have. They just have a billy.
Yeah, right. And Dan's like, "Can you come over here?" And they're just standing there, not doing anything. Yeah, it's gonna be. And of course, now Dan, a couple times, he loves hinting about stuff. I've come to realize in Telegram chat, people asking about what's coming up, what's happening, and he's like, "Yeah, London, guys, just London. Gonna have to wait." So, yeah. And he did this about a year ago, same time. He went to London, and there was a September meetup there, and EOS, of course, was 50 cents or something. It was really cheap. Nobody cared. And that was when he talked about the EOS storage, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
I remember watching that talk.
The IPFS.
Yeah, an IPFS, and make it a full stack solution. I think it's a long ways from that. We haven't heard much since, but nonetheless, he does like to give out big announcements when he does get up to somewhere and travels. It seems like he doesn't really travel a whole lot. He likes to stay in Blacksburg and work. So,
yeah.
I think he said recently he's taken one vacation in 4 years. Something, one week off in 4 years.
Okay.
He wants to keep the head down,
Yep, I totally agree.
So yeah, Tom's coming on next. He'll talk more about the Alliance. I mean, obviously he's the executive director.
I was gonna turn the focus on you for a little bit, but I guess you'll take Thomas. Thomas will take the fall for it, is he?
Yeah, I mean he's we can both provide stuff, but Thomas is the. I mean, we all love listening to Thomas talks, right? I mean,
that's true.
Thomas talks. That should be his.
Thomas talks. Hey, there's a new brand for him. Thomas talks.
Thomas talks. Strong Block talks with Thomas talks.
Oh my God, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, no, I mean the Alliance. So, and actually, David did a great job. What's been great is seeing so many people sort of grasp this idea. Not only grasp it, but understand how necessary it is. We need kind of that central voice. I mean, if we have outside interest coming in, they need to figure out a way to understand what's going on in the community, to keep up and to get involved, right? I've even heard some people go, well, Tron's website is a lot better than EOS. I mean, EOS looks like a big mess and then I remember Dan replying to that, he said, well, EOS is decentralized. It's a community effort. There's no central website like Tron has, where Tron's, I don't mean to talk about that particular project, but they have their designers and they have that centralized group that's building everything for Tron. So that's why everything looks a little bit sleeker, right? I'm not saying the Alliance is going that direction. However, it is nice to have kind of a hub for everybody to gather around, right? And sort of start those discussions and hopefully make some progress, provide kind of a framework, a platform, an unconference style that people can make decisions together and get involved if they wish. So just give more people the opportunity to get involved and help everybody understand how they can get involved. And as we were just talking about with DevCon too, I mean, if you do jump in and you sort of make a name for yourself in the EOS community, you never know what opportunities will open up, right? I mean, you might get hired on, you might go to DevCon and meet the developer that makes the app you love, and it turns out you have a skills match and you can work together and you've changed your life. So It's exciting stuff. And the Alliance, it will give you kind of a platform for folks to make a name for themselves if they wish to volunteer and if they wish to facilitate discussions and take a leadership role with small groups and so on and so forth. So
you did quite well, man. I don't think, hopefully Thomas has something to add to that. I'm sure he will.
Thomas, yeah, he gave a reference earlier. He referred to himself as a talk show host or something like that. He always brings out these just really random references out of nowhere. Although my favorite was when this was actually, I'm just applauding myself right now, but Thomas was talking about block producers a couple months ago. And he was talking about how they were the service providers and they're like the garbage men of EOS kind of. Remember that?
You were like, you boiled it down. You're like, so what you're saying is that BPs are garbage men.
Garbage men of EOS. Yeah, he's talking about how they're just the service providers and so on. Yeah, sure. So anyway.
Yeah. Common pool resource.
Yeah, common pool resource. So.
And of course, we still have this here. It's just, there you go.
It's looking tough. It's looking rough, man. You've really just read it how many times now? 8, 9,
I don't
10?
think the spine has been broken at all.
Bluejays. It's because what you do is you sleep on it at night. You let it absorb into your mind, that kind of thing. Obviously.
No, man. Kindle, digital. Yeah, this is just for props.
Just to look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the bookcase. We should talk about the EOS. Looking forward. So we have the hackathons coming up, right? We've seen Scatter has released their desktop app.
Right.
But on the release as well lately. And I guess the main idea with Scatter is that desktop will provide kind of a platform for gaming on blockchain, right? So you'll have that running in the background. And we saw a few weeks ago, NS James talked about his new first-person shooter he was building as a proof of concept. Real basic, but you'd gain tokens if you killed someone and you'd lose tokens if you died.
Okay.
And it just gives a proof of concept for other developers to go, oh, wow, I could tokenize all kinds of things in games.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't... Go ahead.
Have you used Scatter Desktop yet? I'm still using the browser plugin, but I was talking to NS James, and he's like, yeah, you don't need that anymore. I was like, okay. So
I know the list of different apps and websites that are using the desktop is growing. I had to use the browser, I think, recently because the desktop app wasn't supporting whatever I was doing. So
okay.
It's still being integrated, but yeah, the list is soon. Hopefully we can just do desktop all the time. I mean, why not? Probably it's more secure, I'm sure, too, as well.
And he mentioned in his Scatter channel that I think he's going to have a mobile version soon.
I know, right? He's got the developer fund rolling now, which is awesome. Glad to see that he's able to make a little bit of money to put in and then also expand his development team instead of it just having to be him all the time.
Right.
For everything. I mean, of course, he's the most ridiculous guy I've ever seen. The way he puts out work, whether it's development or it's marketing or whatever, he just does all of it himself. He's amazing. However, of course, it would be nice for him to have a team so he could focus on one particular developing. Free him up for that more. So,
and of course,
he has the money now, and he looks like he's sort of putting out the feelers from what I've seen. And we'll see a mobile version coming soon out of that, I believe.
Very good.
Yeah.
Of course, Jake says he's so scattered.
He's so scattered. I can imagine after that long night that he spent in. So let's talk about a little bit of news too here, Blue Jays, for a moment.
Okay.
So the Alliance, I've been putting out this new tri-weekly update that just to help sort of provide that. Who do we have? Tom, I thought I heard Thomas real quick, but just to provide sort of that central hub of information. So if you're out for a week, or you just don't keep up with EOS for a little bit, or if you just have a regular life and you're unable to stay on Telegram 24/7, you can just pop in and look at these updates once in a while.
It looks great, man. I took a look, and it was like Telegram Summaries 2.0. It was just like really cool, sharp looking.
Yeah, thanks. Just try to summarize the most important news. A little bit of Telegram summary because, hey, everybody loves those things. And it's nice to see the actual community speak for themselves and relay news to each other. And that's why kind of the idea behind doing those things. And also people love to check and see if their names made it in the Telegram summary. So here's something really interesting or profound, maybe. But have you played that new EOS Nights game, Blue Jays?
No, I have not. They've been playing bingo a lot lately. There's a crew that plays bingo every night, and they've been trying to get me to play it, so I might get on to that one. Josh from EOS Canada trash talks a little bit there, and yeah, so we'll see about that. I might actually play that one day. I've been trying to get somebody to make a EOS poker game, but I might have to break down and play bingo.
Which bingo game is this? I haven't even heard about it.
Oh, you haven't heard of bingo?
No.
Yeah, it's around. They play bingo every night. You buy cards with EOS, and there's a shape that you have to make, and you sit there and you watch numbers come up, and they have a little trash fun talk in the chats.
Is there a bingo chat that I've missed out on? Something?
Yeah, there's a bingo chat out there, man.
Oh man, I just
EOSbingo.net.
Wow, how did I miss that?
There's 1,206 unread messages in bingo right now.
Beautiful. Wow. I see people are addicted already. Yeah.
The EOSphere guys play it too. Ross and
man. Yeah. Well, this is going to be the fun stuff here as we, as a community, as we mature. You should say.
Right.
And we were able to play bingo and other games coming up.
Can you imagine decentralized bingo and we're playing bingo all over the world?
Man, mind blown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's Mr. Cox himself.
Cox.
Hello there.
Greetings. How's my sound?
Sounds great.
Super. I'm all yours for 40 minutes.
All right. Yeah, I was just giving Bluejays was going, well, tell me all about this alliance. And I said, well, we got the man himself coming up here shortly. I gave a couple little overviews, but always love to hear from your perspective as well.
Of course. Well, and you're kind of an expert yourself now since you're going to be working for the alliance.
I told them I try my best. But yeah, so I was just referring to our initiatives that we're starting and how we're a community hub for communication, helping everybody with the... And also, so I want to talk to you more about the unconference style and specifically, and how we'll be offering these video calls to folks where they can all get involved and break off in these working groups. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, we haven't done it successfully yet, so all I can talk about is how we think it's going to work. And unconferences work well with people who either are familiar with the approach or have good facilitation. So it could be a train wreck. We don't know. But I'll tell you what we intend or hope, and that is that, speaking to the unconference specifically, we'll have a subject or we'll have a topic, and we will use our the Zoom tools, the online chat, the voting, and so forth to help whoever happens to show up that day to talk on that topic to figure out what agenda they would like to have, and then let them subdivide into groups and talk about those topics. And then having talked about them, to summarize whatever it is that they've said, conclusions they've reached, roadblocks they've uncovered, intractable differences, whatever, and then summarize that back up to the rest of us. So it's a really classic sort of topic, iterate on ideas, vote on a few, zoom out and talk about them, and then come back together and report, some kind of a conclusion or summary that we hope maybe, leads to moving the ball forward. At the very least, we will raise the right issues. We may or may not be able through this approach to truly make decisions necessarily. More likely what we'll be able to do is figure out what clusters of ideas go together and then offer through the referendum system, a couple of clear options. And then voters can weigh in on 2 or 3 really clear ways forward. And then once the voters vote, then we'll know what the community wants and where we're headed. Because right now it's all guesswork.
Thomas, the unconference, can it work for any topic, or is it a specific type of topic?
I've never done an online unconference before, so I don't even know if it works there. But I'll tell you how it worked in Seoul when we went to South Korea, and how it's worked. I've done several of these in non-blockchain topics here in my hometown of Portland. I've done a couple on lean thinking and lean management, for instance. And it's very straightforward, and all you have to do is Google search unconference, and you can find a wealth of information on it. Facilitators love it because it's kind of fun and really engaging for people. You need to have a topic or a content or some sort of a problem or issue that enough people care about that they're willing to show up and talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So in Seoul, we said, EOS mainnet, and I thought we'd narrow it down to governance and maybe even narrow it down to the Constitution. That was not what happened. But what I asked, the assembled room was, if we could have a session to talk about a topic that you would love to be at, what topic would that be? Write it on a Post-it note. And they went nuts and wrote a bunch of Post-it notes. And in fact, I'll put some pictures up on the screen here for you in just a second. And then, okay, great. So how are these topics similar to one another? Because, of course, people are repeating each other a lot. There's a lot of overlap and duplication, as you'd expect, right? And then, so the way you handle that is you take these Post-it notes that you've thrown up on walls and you start to combine them into groups. And let's see if I can find my images. If I'd known we were talking about this, I totally would have been more prepared. And the so you cluster the ideas based on topic or whatever, and then eventually you get enough clusters that are coherent enough that you could give them a name, like talk about ECAF's foundation and how to make it more viable, or whether or not it even is viable, or the Constitution. What do we love? What do we want to fix? Or, RAM pricing, or all the standard topics you see on the Gov chat and several others. And then having elaborated on that, you then say, okay, but what do people really want to talk about here right now? And so everyone got 3 little adhesive dots. And we just went around to these clusters of questions, and you put a dot on something that you personally would love to talk about.
Okay.
And boy, there you go. And then the things that got the most dots, we counted noses, and you want about 1 breakout room per 12 people roughly. And we had almost 90 people there, about 84 people there.
Wow.
It's huge. And so we calculated that about 7 breakouts was the right number. And so we said, okay.
Oh, Thomas Freeze there?
It was a good moment to freeze. Okay. And then cliffhanger.
Yeah.
21 topics.
Oh, there he
And
is.
we just gridded it out and says, okay, coming up in 10 minutes, if you want to talk about, topic, column 1 topic, which is in breakout area 1, the top row, to go there and go talk about it and come back in 45 minutes and tell us what you came up with. And okay, if you want the next topic, you go there, and the next topic, and so on. And people just self-organized around, what was the thing they wanted to talk about. And they would just literally go and then come back after 45 minutes. And the assignment was you and your group have to come back with a big sheet of paper off of a flip chart. And on that flip chart page, you've written down like whatever you came up with, answers, conclusions, the next question the community needs to ask itself, whatever. And I found my photos. Let me show you the photos. Hopefully these will display reasonably well. Is that looking okay? Are you able to see?
Yeah. Give me one second here.
That is the refreshments that they put on were glorious. There were these like croissant sandwiches. Here's Santosh on the left and a couple of people meeting with some tall guy who's squinting.
It looks like Orchid on the left. Is that? No, maybe not.
Not sure. Here I am indulging in the brownies.
You have a personal photographer or something? What's going on?
They took a ton of photos, and they just sent me the ones that I was in were good color shots. So here's us briefing on one of the, and this isn't even the full group, by the way. This is a fairly light turnout. We're like during one of the breaks. So here's us putting together our topics, right, with the Post-it notes. Worker proposal, cybersecurity, DAP, RAM pricing. And here's people rearranging the Post-it notes to come up with the clusters that turn into the schedulable topics. And so you can see it looks a little chaotic. There's order to the chaos. You'll see on the far left, Eva Rose from EOS Nation in profile. Here we are. I'm briefing one of the groups on what it is they're supposed to do next. They are all obviously having a miserable time, as you can tell by the expressions on their faces. People got very bonded. It was very intense.
Yeah.
We really got to know each other.
Is that
And,
Mr. James there next to you?
Yes, I think that very well might be NS James. He was indeed there. This is more of the full turnout. So I think this is almost everybody as we were going through the instructions. Again, organizing the questions into clusters. There's the dots. They're voting to see what the top ones are going to be. Now they're in their breakouts. And this was the Constitution breakout, I know, because there's his hand is in front of his face, but that's Kevin Rose from EOS New York. I haven't seen those guys since I was in New York, but I had to go to Seoul to see them again. And across from him is Jetse Spray from EOS Amsterdam. And here in the foreground with their backs to us on the front left is Eric from Sweden and Roman from Crypto Alliance, I believe. Keenly interested in the... Oh, there's Marcin right next to Kevin. Tokanika. Yeah, he is awesome.
Yeah.
He has very well thought out and very challenging ideas, he makes me think.
He comes from a background of DPoS too. They've been in Steam for a while.
Yeah, right. So he's got really good domain knowledge. This is a smaller breakout group on one of the other topics. So you see, you don't need special meeting rooms, although we did have some meeting rooms. We were able to just cluster around things, and there's their whiteboard next to their flip chart next to them. And it was just, there's one of the meeting rooms. Standing up is Marshall Long from EOS Fish, who was a very powerful leader in his sessions. I did not know that he had those skills. That was a delight to me to make his acquaintance. There's a more full turnout. And really good signage, by the way. They did a terrific job spinning this thing up from nothing to a full production in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I think they finalized the signage a week or two out, and it was tremendous. And all the sponsors there with their logos, good signage from the outside. And this was in this building this building includes a space called D-Camp, which was an incubator for technology startups. It was funded by 10 of the biggest banks in Korea. Super cool. There's me during one of the work sessions that I wasn't working. I was jet lagged, severely jet lagged. Let's see, I've got one or two others that are worth looking at. Oh yeah, and there's Marshall flopped down next to me to brief me on some things, because he saw that I had some downtime. Very intense young man.
He's trying to make the Chesterhedron with his fingers.
Yeah, he's been doing crypto mining in China for years now. He's an old hand at this stuff. Lots of little group discussions. Couple of just shots of me, I guess. Oh, we had this young lady. I'm totally spacing her name now, but she was an experienced unconference moderator and facilitator, and so anywhere I wasn't, she was, and that really helped things along. Which is, by the way, why I'm honestly a little concerned about the online versions. I don't know how many good moderators will attract, and whether it'll be as effective online or not. We'll find out. Right, people writing on their Post-it notes what their topics are going to be. This is me yelling at David Margulies and making him cry.
I was going to say.
Here we've got the breakout groups 1 and 2 with their topics and all the dots on them, so you can walk over and look at the topic and know where you're going to be when. Neither one of them had a third session at that point. So at the end, after you do your 45-minute breakout, you come out of your group or your huddle or whatever, and everyone circles around, and then we all focus on whoever's reporting out from their group to let everybody know what they discovered. And they had 2 or 3 minutes to give their reports. So it would be very succinct. and they really boiled it down. And most of those were video recorded, so those are available for posterity. And several of the groups ended up turning their summaries into postings or videos or articles. Some of them turned into work sessions. So we really, I think, moved the ball forward. And there's a rule in unconferences that called the rule of 2 feet, where if you're ever in a place where you are neither giving nor receiving value, use your 2 feet and go walk somewhere else where you are giving or receiving value. Don't just sit in a session because you were in there. If it's the wrong session, just leave. It's fine. We all know that that's the rule. No big. So this is another report out. That's Josh talking to everybody. And I think that's Jay on the left, and
Roman.
That does indeed look like Roman.
I think it's Dafeng, isn't it, from the left?
Oh,
Might be
Dafeng.
Dafeng. Yeah. Might be Dafeng. You can almost read his badge, but not quite. And we did not have to pose these photos. I mean, people really were this engaged. You don't normally see everyone leaning in to a speaker like that again and again and again. It was that way the whole day. And we went, I think, 9 hours.
That's intense.
It was pretty cool. We had a one breakout session on China travel, because this was on Saturday. Sunday was our travel day, and Sunday was the day that the typhoon was landing and sitting on top of Shanghai, where we were all going to fly on Sunday. So the typhoon was tomorrow as of this photo, and we're like, I wonder if we're going to make it to Shanghai in time for Monday. And there you have that. So I've got some other slides elsewhere, but I think those are, it kind of gets you a flavor of how it all went. It's very intense. It's very physically in the room. So this online approach it's risky. I don't know. We shall see. We're going to need really good facilitation. We're going to need really good visuals. But the whole point of the online stuff is to make this kind of experience, or some online version of the experience, as broadly available as humanly possible to the EOS community, no matter where you live, both in online written form as well as live video form. So if you're not much of a talker, you can write. If you are really more verbal, you can listen and talk. You can engage in either modality. And to sort of stretch out the process and document it repeatedly, so that we do a call in Chinese, and then we document it and translate it, and everyone can see what was said. Then we do a call in Korean and document that and translate the summary of that, so we can start to see the conversation unfolding. What are the big concerns among the Chinese attendees and the Korean attendees? And what reality are they facing, and how is it maybe different from the English speakers? And if we iterate through this enough times on a single subject, I think we'll start to get some closure. And either we'll discover what we all believe, and then we can have some confidence on it and some forward movement, or we'll discover what the decision is that we have to make in order to move forward. And that turns into some kind of a referendum question. So this is the future of governance, I believe, for the chain, is these kinds of conversations. And these kinds of votes.
Yeah, I agree. It's rather exciting to kind of think and look forward to how this how it might look next week. I guess next Monday we'll start these calls up. There's an info post going out. We're announcing it here. It's coming up very shortly, the next probably 12 hours or so. So folks who do want to get involved, or if they're interested in something like this, stay tuned.
Yeah, if you can make the calls, please do. If you're good at meeting facilitation, please let us know that. And if you can't make it, stay tuned for the summaries that'll get written up afterwards, and you can weigh in on those and make the following week. Because these are intended to build on each other. We want to start with a topic like, what are the values in our Constitution, or what is the purpose of our Constitution? And through dialogue and inquiry, unveil that, document it, come up with whatever the top 2 or 3 worldviews are, and then from there say, okay, what kind of a constitution do we need to serve that worldview? We've got Dan's version 2 constitution, which I'm sure will be very well represented. We've got kind of our version 1 default constitution, which may or may not stand up. It might need it plus some amendments, maybe, could be an alternative. Don't know. And then the goal is to end up with a clear question or choice to place in front of the voters, and to get there through an open and inclusive process where everyone does get heard, but not necessarily everybody gets obeyed or gets to win. Because at some point we've got to make some choices.
And so we'll bring up the Constitution first. And
very early, somewhere in there'll be a parallel conversation about the referendum code, which I don't think is controversial, but we do have to at least notice it, discuss it, maybe have some trainings on it. There's two distinct approaches. I honestly don't like either of them, but my liking them is completely irrelevant. The real question is, will they do the job? And are they adequate for our needs? And if they are, super, let's do it. And once we have a working referendum contract, we will finally be able to move our governance from its interim status to a confirmed ratified status. We can have a ratified constitution. We can have ECAF put its slates of candidates for arbitration up for ratification by the token holders. We can open and then settle various policy issues. What should we do with the 4% extra inflation? Should we have a worker proposal system or not? And if so, what should it look like?
Mm-hmm.
Those are not my questions to answer. They're the community's questions to answer, but they can't answer them without a referendum system. And the referendum system can't operate without clear questions being fed in so they can be voted on. So that's what we're going to try to do.
Do you feel like this is kind of a sub question, but for the referendum question, should our first proposal be, is this referendum good enough for referendum? Or should we just go ahead and put some kind of proposal forth that is unrelated? And if people then vote for that proposal, we're assuming the referendum process worked.
If 15% plus one of tokens show up and they use one of the systems, I guess that's proof by usage that referendum system is valid. We don't only have to have one. I mean, we could have two or three. I don't recommend it, but nothing to stop us. However, I think it would be a kindness, and it would be a humility and a good form to say, here is a candidate piece of code to be used for referenda. Would you like to use it for that purpose? Yes or no? And that is your bootstrap question. It's kind of like when your computer prompts you, do you want to load this program, or do you want to switch these two operating systems? Would you like to load next? And you pick one. I think that's polite, and it shows respect to the voters. But if we don't do that, we just go straight to using it and then it gets used, that's okay. But here's the problem. What if it's at 14% voter turnout? Was it ever valid? Can we use it again? What? I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I think we have enough ambiguity, uncertainty, and interim behavior. We need to start ratifying things through the voting process. And why would you not use your own referendum system to pose the question, would you like to use this system now? I think it's an easy yes. And I think if you believe in your system, you'd ask that and get the easy yeses and go, ta-da, look, we did it. We are real. We are valid. Look at us. That's super. And if you got a bunch of no's, you could say, okay, why? And find out. That's exactly that's how I would do it. But it's not me. So I have opinions, but I have no power, and that's fine.
We've so folks have asked about when it comes to the alliance, long term, and they're worried about Dan as well in terms of, is this some kind of a rift in the community? Do we have Block One's endorsement on alliance? Everybody wants to know about Block One and the alliance. Can you talk about that?
People are so funny. Every problem we've had as a community stems from the fact that we're actually decentralized, right? It's like, nobody knows what's going on with X. Yeah, because there's nobody in charge, because we're decentralized. Hello? That's what decentralized looks like. The Ethereum and the Bitcoin environments were highly centralized when they launched, but they launched at an earlier age when things were more less advanced, less sophisticated than they are now. And I think the assumption was at launch that the community would be ready to self-organize and self-manage, and we've been slow as a community to self-organize and to self-manage. And the worst thing that could happen to the alliance would be for Block One to be one of the first endorsers, because then everyone would say, "Oh, okay," and guess what? Block One's secretly in charge because everyone followed their lead. That is the worst possible thing. Then it just means that the whole blockchain of EOS mainnet is just a big appendage, and that it's the tail being wagged by Block One, the dog. It just shows that Block One is controlling everybody, and so I am extraordinarily grateful that Block One has chosen to be silent and let everybody else figure out for themselves if they would like the alliance. And we've seen that after some thought and some hard questions, 55 block producers have endorsed it. Several of the forks, including Warbly, have endorsed. I'm still talking to Telos. I think they would be a great group to have on board in the alliance because they're using our software, even though they're not part of mainnet. And so they should have a place at the dialogue table. So should Ono, so should any of the other forks currently or in the future. They wouldn't have the ability to vote on referenda, but the alliance is only about dialogue, right? So it really should be all-inclusive. So at some point, Block One will feel safe that their endorsement won't be some kind of rubber stamp of approval, and they have to wait a while. And I also, the reason I think if I were in their shoes, which I used to be, I would be waiting in part to see if the alliance even did anything, because the last thing you want to do is endorse some entity that just sits there and doesn't do anything. So, in a few weeks, a few months, when the alliance has managed to hold these dialogues, have these conversations, move the community forward constructively, is getting results. At that point, I think it'll be a fait accompli. And then it frankly won't even matter whether or not Block One does any official endorsement. They'll just be in the dialogue with us. In which case, a year from now, it'll be like, what do you mean Block One never formally endorsed the alliance? They're in all the conversations. It's like, yeah, no formal endorsement was ever really needed.
Good.
Yeah, I'm mostly so a lot of these questions, of course, I've answered in Telegram and whatnot, but it's kind of good to hear from your perspective, and of course, never hurts to hear it.
And we'll be asked again. People who didn't tune into this episode will ask it. Someone will join EOS, a week from now, and it'll come to them as like a brand new, fresh question that they haven't heard the answer to. And they'll go, "Oh my gosh, did Block One ever endorse?" It's like, oh yeah, that question again. And the trick is not to treat them badly when they ask a question that we know the answer to that they don't. It's like, be patient with the newbies. You were a newbie once yourself.
Well said.
Well said. Well, Thomas, you guys have a referendum series coming up. What's the timeline looking like on that?
So the status of the referendum code is really in the hands of the two different groups that I'm aware of. Maybe there's even a third that are writing code that can be used for referenda. And I believe at least one of them is in testing right now, the EOS forum approach. Last I read, they had come up with a way to track the vote status on chain, or rather in chain state, so which does take RAM. So when you vote, you would need like 50 bytes of free memory to cast your ballot, which should not be a barrier to entry to anybody who's got any tokens. You know, if you've got only $20 worth of EOS tokens, that might be a challenge for you. But honestly, you were never going to sway that election. You just weren't. And it is by token weight, of course. So we're going to see test nets spun up with that, and I think they're deploying a version on mainnet as well for people to play with. And then at some point, it'll be up to them when they go live with it. I think the Alliance's job will be to track what's going on and maybe do some interviews, cut some videos, encourage them to do some trainings. I'm sure Kev will cover it in detail in the tri-weekly update. And just stay on top of it. I mean, the big issues, the first referendum is going to be groundbreaking for us. The first full ECAF filing decision plus order will be groundbreaking. The first referendum that fails will be groundbreaking. The first time we pass two competing referenda that contradict each other that both pass, that will be groundbreaking. Okay, we've got some interesting times ahead of us. Don't think that launching referenda solves everything. It opens up new problems. But these are the problems of success. These are the problems of governance. So yeah, we'll cover obviously the referendum code and process as best we can, given that the work's being done by others. And the Alliance will invite those programmers to, I imagine, come on this show and or to maybe do some specialty interviews. I think it's up to Kev what he'd like to do. I know Kev has an endless bandwidth. He's really looking for more work. So,
well, yeah, it's a good idea. We'll get him on the EOS radio. You know, make him do some disco. That'll lighten the mood as well. So, have we gotten you to do disco yet, Mr. Cox?
You have not, nor will you ever.
Okay. Right, we've had this discussion before.
I don't disco. I dance, but I don't disco.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Not a problem. Kev, I've seen you disco well enough for all of us.
Thanks.
I'll let you carry that burden. What else would you like to talk about? Anything else? I know there's so much going on in the governance world and in the news.
Well, so we should talk about the 12-week series with the Constitution series rather, and
sure.
How we're looking to sort of produce. And I saw a question from someone that was interesting. They were asking, is it actually a bad thing to have too many candidate constitutions, because then it would split the vote, it would split too many, we would never reach
I suspect that we'll be doing what will amount to a preference vote, where you can say yes to 2 or even 3 constitutions, because the question will be, would you be willing to live under this constitution, yes or no? And if the community really is divided and no one constitution can get, more than 1/3 of yeses, and they all get 1/3 yes and 2/3 no's, well, that'll be a puzzle. So then what do? Do you merge them? Do you say, well, look, the top 2 vote getters will have to come back onto the ballot and say, look, we got to pick one. Seriously, people. Or you might, who knows? Because, by the way, one of the things we don't have from a governance perspective is any policy set by token holders of who is allowed to post a referendum question. Which means, in theory, you could post infinite referendum questions. Which means, in turn, voter attention will get wildly splintered, and people will just treat it all as spam and never vote for anything because it's just too much trouble. So, how do you handle that problem? And the answer to that is it's up to the referendum designers to figure out how to handle that. And if they don't, then it'll be up to somebody else to come up with a way to handle that, because that question does have to get handled.
And also, Thomas, can you talk about, so we've had some questions about the exchange relations that the Alliance will have, and eventually DApps will be able to work through us, and I guess we'll have a vetting process, it looks like. Can you give more details or a bit of a first look at that?
We don't really know quite yet what's going to happen. We know that a lot of token holders really don't like the exchanges very much, and I don't know how much of that's because of perceptions about them or actual behavior on the part of exchanges. I imagine there's probably some things that the exchanges are very irritated by with regard to mainnet that we don't even know about yet. And so the plan that I'm aware of is for a group of folks, I believe including Brock Pierce, but several people who helped spin up the alliance are going to go and meet with the leaders of several different large exchanges. I think there's 5 of them on the schedule. Go meet with them face to face and just talk things out and say, what are your concerns? What are your issues? Here's what we're hearing from the mainnet people. Here's what the big token holders are concerned about. How can we help you meet your needs? How can you help us meet our needs? And I'm looking forward to reading the summary of that meeting. I have no idea what's going to be involved yet.
Okay. Yeah, of course, a lot of DApp companies are starting to reach out from the alliance. We've heard some folks, and they want all the help they can get, right? So it's going to be.
Yeah. By the way, if you have a DApp and you want money, don't contact the alliance. We have no money to give you.
Nonprofit. Yeah.
We are a nonprofit with a very small budget, and that's how we are going to remain for the foreseeable future. We are not putting up lists. We are not matchmaking dApps with donors or investors. Sorry, not happening. If you would like to help spin up your own dApp working group for any reason, to help people find funding, I don't know, you're welcome to do that, because we have a community self-organizing charter system whereby you can spin up any group you want to. And if you get a charter put together and enough of the right people, fill out the charter and send it into the alliance, and the board will look at it and vote on it. And you might become an alliance working group. It's modeled in some ways on the IEEE, which is the International Electrical Engineering. I don't remember now. It's the group for engineers, right?
Yeah.
The professional association. And they've got working groups and societies and associations on every imaginable topic. And it's driven by the interest of the members. So if you've got an interest, band together and you'll get recognized.
I guess we should talk about funding just a little bit, kind of make it the last topic of the night, but funding for the Alliance.
Right. So we've got initial funding coming from the group that formed the steering committee that floated the idea, that recruited me, and that recruited the board members. And so those initial folks have either donated or pledged to donate not the first 3 months of operating expenses, including the money required to form an entity in Switzerland. So there's going to be a Swiss foundation is the current plan, which is, by the way, kind of an expensive and lengthy proposition. And we should be able to run on donations for at least 3 to 6 months. We might then perhaps ask for worker proposal money. We might not. I'd rather not, frankly. I'd much rather run on donations if we can. And I know that the board is expecting to task themselves with fundraising for our operating budget. And we're running very lean. It's $1 million a year, which is $83,000 a month, roughly, which is enough for a handful of staff, some professional translators, online services like Zoom, website maintenance, and so forth. And at some point, we'll be able to put on some conferences. I'm looking forward to us putting on a conference, one big conference every year, and maybe some quarterly regional conferences. I'd like to see something happen in Dubai, something in Europe, something in Asia, because I want to go to all those places, and I want to see the Alliance be active all around the globe. And we're virtual, we're this incredibly distributed group, but there's so much power in seeing people face to face. I saw that myself in Seoul and Shanghai. There are block producers in particular who've been hard at work, starting up the mainnet. They'd worked on these video calls like hours and hours, days at a time, trying to get everything to work for the launch. And so they knew each other, but they never met.
Yeah.
And so that was great.
In-person
really
conferences are the best.
There's something special about the in-person conference. Speaking of which, there's a big developer conference coming up in January, I believe.
Yeah, I was trying to think of how we can do an on-conference for developers, but I don't know how it would work. So that would be an interesting challenge.
Well, I promise you there are unconference experienced people local to you wherever you are. If you're in a big city, there's some person or people near you who've done unconferences on other topics, and the unconference format is universal.
Yeah.
So you can get local help for that.
Cool.
Yeah, well, thanks for.
And I'm sure the Alliance would like to be in tapping what's going on with developers as well too.
It seems awfully likely. I'm already aware of one group that's being spun up. I won't say by whom yet, but I did hand them a copy of Kevin's charter document, and I think that they may be filing a charter with us for recognition very soon to help organize developers and attract new developers into EOS.
Good.
That's wonderfully exciting to me.
That's great news. That's the real stuff we should be focusing on too, as we've talked about.
Growing the utility of the platform, getting more applications online, getting more users online, making this ecosystem effective at its promise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What apps do you guys use most on EOS so far?
Oh my gosh. I kind of just use the EOS Toolkit and Scatter. I don't have a lot of usage.
You don't use Monster EOS or Bingo or anything like that?
I have not yet.
Okay.
My time is taken up by other things.
I just found out about this nightly bingo they all play. Apparently Ross gets on there from EOSphere and Josh from Canada. Everybody gets on, has a great time. When did that happen? I want to go.
Yeah, it happens every night.
Just what I need is another compelling use of my time.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang up now before you tell me any more.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man. It was awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
Thomas.
you so much. Great to see you both.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.
Nightly bingo. You playing tonight, Blue Jays? Did I see 12:05 a.m.? Is that what time it plays?
They play pretty late.
Okay. So you got to be a night owl.
Yeah.
Are you staying up that late these days? I know you don't usually stay up that late. Huh?
No, I'm out like a light by like way before that. So that's probably why I don't play.
Okay.
They have to get like an old man game.
I thought bingo was an old man game. What is that time? What's going on here? It's supposed to be like 3 in the afternoon, maybe.
Yeah. On EOS, it's a young guys game.
There you go. Yeah, right. Well, let's cover some news, Blue Jays, and then we'll call it a show here.
Yeah, I think we covered most of them.
Yeah.
What else you got there?
Well, we should talk about that trade stuff app that's coming out. That's from EOS SoCal, and actually they showed us that a few months ago. I think it was a couple of months ago. And they've now teamed up with OCI to help finish the development and get it up on EOS.
Very good.
And it's going to be the first DApp that launches on the on the Apple App Store and on the Google Play Store.
I saw that.
So it's going to be a barter type DApp, and you can put up your stuffed bunny on there if you want to trade it for a paperclip, whatever the case is. You want to put up your weed whacker and get a lawnmower, something like that, right? But also it has an engine in there where it can mix and match different people's trades and go back and forth. So you may never know the actual end user of who may. So basically, if you decide to trade your weed whacker, but you want a lawnmower, it may trade the weed whacker to someone else who has something that someone else wants, and then it eventually makes it up to the lawnmower. So you get the lawnmower at the end, but you did sort of this network of trades. Think of it kind of like a decentralized network itself, except between users. I think it's pretty cool. It's tradedaps.com, I think it is actually.
Trade stuff.
Oh, trade stuff. Excuse me, tradestuff.com. Have you looked into this at all? Have you seen it?
No, I have not. I mean, I didn't know it was that far along. I saw the headline and I was excited about it, but I guess I went to the website and I didn't find any more information. So I'll take a look at it again.
Yeah, it's coming along. It looks like it should be up pretty soon on the App Store as well. So if you are into, if you have some stuff you're trying to get rid of and you just like to get something else, and they reference that red paperclip story on their website. Yeah. A lot of folks have heard about that. This random guy in Canada, he bartered his red paperclip, and he got a house at the end of it after a whole bunch of trades. Traded his way all the way up. I don't know how he did that.
That's the dream right there.
That guy's a legend, I'm telling you. Anyway, so that's coming up soon. We have that EOS Bet and EOS Nights are both new games launching on EOS. Now, EOS Bet is a beta. And then EOS Nights, I have not looked too much into that, but it looks like it's like an RPG clicking kind of thing. Have you played either one, Blue Jays?
No.
Okay. Yeah, we're a couple of boring guys here. We don't play the bingo. We don't play the the betting or the nights yet, but you played Monster EOS, I think, right?
No, I have not played Monster EOS.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did use Scatter a couple times, guys. That's
Yeah.
incredible. So
I'm waiting for that scatter shooter maybe.
that would be fun. I'll whoop you on that one,
Yeah,
Blue Jays.
we'll see. We'll see.
You guys come in that game with us. We'll have a good time.
I got a gaming keyboard. You can hear it. You hear it every time I'm on.
That's true. Yeah. If we're on the TeamSpeak and I can hear your keyboard clacking around in the background, turn that keyboard off.
Yeah.
In terms of other news, I mean, what have you seen? We have the new video series from Generios has come out. There's a nice voting decay tool, and EOS Authority put out an interesting tidbit of information I actually was not personally aware of, where if you are voting for a proxy and that proxy revotes, it does not restore your power. Your voting power is only restored when you revote for the proxy. So it's kind of like if you're voting for block producers, you have to revote once in a while to revote your
vote
power.
decay thing.
Exactly. You still have to revote for your proxy to re-up your power. So if you are interested in helping EOS, you should go back in there every once in a while and just re-up your votes, whether it's for block producers or for the proxy that is doing your voting for you. That way you can make sure that you're helping EOS as much as possible. The best block producers are working for us. And we have seen more of a compliance thing going on lately. Ben Sigmund has been running this voluntary compliance kind of audit, has been putting out some information about the BP.json, folks who don't have any type of endpoints and yet are still collecting money, that kind of thing. So starting to try and clean up the ecosystem a little bit. It's an ongoing, lengthy process to get there. And these kind of initiatives, rather, will be what sort of drives the conversation forward and helps get a lot of these block producer candidates hopefully in line, or at least gets the voters thinking more about this and voting more responsibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a big thing right there. I mean, proxies are going to be very powerful.
Yeah, totally agree.
They already are. If you see the proxy voting portal, there's some heavy hitters over there.
Yeah, look at Bitfinex, but also Luke Stokes has a big proxy too, I've noticed, and a couple other big ones. What else is new, Blue Jays? Anything else you've seen?
I'm sort of involved with the OrisPay project, so I know they started staking. I don't personally know what it. I think Jareb knows more about it, but you can stake your OrisPay tokens. So
nice.
Whatever that means.
Generates. I think. Well, I read a little bit about it too. It generates Horus dollars, which I suppose will be used in the DApp. I guess as of right now, there's not a lot of information about it. It's just sort of getting the ball rolling. We're in that stage with almost every app at this point, right? It's better than it was 3 months ago when there were no dApps.
Yeah, so. You remember that, Kevin? Like we didn't have RAM, which was probably the first app on EOS, to be honest.
Right.
RAM was the first app, and then Monster EOS came out, and there was several others. Now there's Bingo. And imagine a year from now, probably buying your groceries on EOS. Who knows? I would like some Guinness.
Right. And then we'll be on the show, and then within a half second later, the Guinness shows up at your door. Walk times, Should be pretty good. Yeah. It's times have changed. These conversations too. I mean, when we talk about what the Alliance is trying to do for conversations, you mentioned RAM, but the Constitution, the referendum process, worker proposal system, all this stuff is just these conversations were not even in the hopper as of 3 months ago. It's just stuff we didn't know would be an issue. Of course, the RAM as well. So it's things will always change. We're never going to run out of things to talk about here on EOS Radio. We chat about everything for a long time. So, final thoughts of the week for you, Blue Jays?
Thoughts of the week. It's very eventful. There's a lot of anticipation. A lot of anticipation coming up. Not only with the stuff we've already talked about, but with the arrival of probably the announcement of announcements, but the arrival of the hackathon next month, which should lead to some great news for EOS and probably for the users of EOS as well. I'm speculating, totally speculation, but
hey, we do plenty of that around here, right? And that's we've been waiting for that big gorilla in the room, big elephant in the room, Block One, to start releasing stuff, right? I mean, they've been very quiet ever since they released that software in the beginning of June. They have released some patches and whatnot, and I believe we now see Dan. He's not really on the EOS.io team. He's not really maintaining it anymore. I see Bart kind of heading that now, from what I've noticed in the chats, which leads me to believe that Dan must be working with more the app side now,
Absolutely.
implementation side, which is great. I mean, he's the innovator, right? He's the one that comes up with all these incredible ideas for what could be possible. So yeah, put him out there. Let's have him thinking about that stuff.
Yep.
And so hopefully that hardware wallet that we hear about with the secure enclave, and that would be amazing if we saw that come out, because it would enable so many other options on mobile and everything else. Of course, Steam 2.0 as well. So I'm looking forward to that too, of course. I've also been keeping an eye kind of on Scatter. I think Nathan James, that guy's always kicking butt.
Yeah.
He put out his desktop app. I'm waiting for that first-person shooter. He's got his Riddle token out there now, which I think is interesting. And Tidium is also looking good. They're having, I think it was an airdrop or some kind of an airdrop or a token sale I just saw recently. I should mention them.
Tidium, I can't. They were on our last show, and it was a great show.
Yeah, exactly. I enjoy talking to those guys. So
yeah,
and if you guys, you always keep up with us. Excuse me, fumbling over my words a lot tonight here, Blue Jays. I'm just excited to see you again. It's been 2 weeks now. So
yeah. And you bear with us, guys. I'm going through a move, so I'll probably be back in Canada. You might see a different background, probably at the end of this month. So, as normal, I'll try and make the show. But if not, we will pick right back up and keep on going.
Yeah, man! Congratulations, you're making the move.
Yeah, going back to Toronto area, not specifically in Toronto, but in the area, anyways.
Now people will start to understand your nickname, Blue Jays. Finally,
right.
Blue Jays from Florida. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Their spring training team is literally right down in St. Pete, where your sister's from,
man.
Right?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And you've been a few times, right?
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. That'd be incredible to go to that. But we're way off topic. But anyway, you guys,
thanks,
you
guys.
for catching us up. And go EOS as always.
Go EOS. See you later, everyone. Have a good week.